All right. In this video, I'm gonna try and help you guys out with the volume calculator, and I'm gonna just do one of the pieces, and then maybe you can use that, and hopefully it'll help out with the other stuff. So, in fact, let me just pause this, and I'll create my document or my code. So the first thing that I'm doing is I'm importing. I want to be able to use the scanner class. So what I'll have import. What is it? Java.util.scanner, and then I'll do what we normally do with our little template. So I've got this going, and I'm going to pull up the instructions just to start it out and see what happens there. So if we look at this, it says write a program that will calculate volumes for a user. Allow the user to decide on what shape they want to calculate the volume for, either sphere, box. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're only calculating stuff for 5 things, so we're going to have to look up the volume formulas for those things. And distance required for each formula. So each of the the width, the radius, the height, the length, or whatever. And then you may assign pi as 3.1. So I'll be doing that, so I can use pi in my code. He says, so this is an example. So like all of this, what would you like to find the volume of? Sphere, and then what's the radius? So I'm not going to do sphere. I think I'm going to do the box one because this is a little bit tricky. I'm not going to get it all with one line because I can't figure out how to do that just yet. I probably will ask Mr. Harrington, but I will be able to check for negative values. So I'm gonna show it with the box because I know the formula off the top of my head. For the rest of the stuff, I don't really know the formula, but you can look it up. So first things first, allow the user to decide what shape they want to calculate the volume for. So I'm going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to first use the scanner, or I'm first going to display a message. So let's think about that. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm printing out to the screen this message. What shape would you like to calculate the volume for? And then I'm going to use the scanner class to allow the user to type in what out of the 5 shapes. So I'm gonna write an if statement that only allows them to use these 5 words, and if they don't type in these 5 words, I'll have some kind of message that pops up. So I mean, that's just my choice. It doesn't say that you have to do that in these instructions, but that's just my choice. I'm only going to allow these 5 words exactly how they're typed right here. So how am I going to do that? Well, first I'm going to, I'm going to use the scanner class to accept some word, some string. So I'll do that first, and I'll pause this and then write it out. So right here I'm using the scanner class to put some string inside shape, inside this string called shape. So I'm waiting for the user. This allows the user to type in something, and then it's putting it into shape. So what I'm going to do is create an if statement that checks to see if it's one of these 5 words. And if it's not one of these 5 words, I'm going to do something. If it is one of these 5 words, I'll continue on with the program. That's what the if statement is going to do. So that's the first if that I'm going to write. So if something, I'm just going to set up my a little template. And if, and then I'll have an else, and else. So if what? If shape, let's see, if shape dot equals, and then what do we have? If shape dot equals, and I said I was gonna just make sure that they type in one of these things. So I can say if shape dot equals sphere. I know I said I wasn't going to do the sphere first, but I'm not. I'm just checking to make sure it's one of these 5 words. This is just what I wanted to do. So sphere here. if shape dot equals sphere. So I'm using this, and I'm actually going to copy this, and I'll change the word sphere. So what this is doing is it's saying if whatever is in shape is the same as sphere, then this whole statement will evaluate as true, and then we will execute whatever is inside this if. If this is not true, then we would skip to this else and do whatever we're going to put in the else. So far I don't have anything in there. I'm just writing my condition. But I want it to be able to say sphere or box or cylinder or cone or pyramid. So I use the or, and then instead of writing sphere again, I'm going to say box and all the other 5 things. So or, and then instead of sphere again, I'm changing that to sphere, box, cylinder. And then I'm trying not to spell them wrong, because if I spell them wrong here and I spell them correctly when I'm typing stuff in, it won't work. Or some people might not have seen this before, but I'm going to, so I don't want to run off the line here, or like run, just keep letting it go on and on and on to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just line up. I mean, I pushed enter. The compiler will just read this as blank space and then just skip down. It'll consider it all one single line, but it'll just look a lot nicer if I don't keep typing on to the right over here. So cylinder, I said or, cylinder, what is next after cylinder? Cone or pyramid. Okay, cylinder, cone, and then or, last thing, pyramid. So I have all this, and if I click on the last, yes, okay, this is closed up there. So everything should be good. If I compile it, everything should be okay, hopefully. Yes. All right, so now this if statement is just checking. If shape is sphere or box or cylinder or cone or pyramid, then I'll do this stuff. So then I'll start in here. So let's see, let's see what this looks like. Maybe let me pause and compose my thoughts. So the bulk of my program is going to be inside this if statement, inside this first if statement. So if one of these words is typed in from this and put into shape, then I'm going to run the rest of my code and calculate some kind of volume. If not, if they type in sphere and they spell it wrong, or if they type in some other shape, like a tetrahedron or something like that, then I want to say that's not a shape that I can calculate the area. I mean, this is not part of the instructions, but I want to say that. So I'm going to demonstrate that with this or, with this bunch of ors. So if it's not one of these things, then what do I want to do? Well, I'll say system.out.println, and I'll say that is not a shape I can compute, or something like that. I don't know, or that is not a volume or a shape that I can compute. Okay, that's gonna be fine. So if it's not one of these words, it'll print out this, and hopefully I can compile it. I'm gonna run it real quick and see what happens if so I'll run this. What shape would you like to calculate the volume for? If I actually type in sphere, cone, cylinder, one of those, nothing will happen because there is no code for that part. But if I type in something that's wrong, like red, that is not a shape I can compute. So, and then the program ends. So let me clear this. So I have the case where they type in something wrong. I have a case for that, and it's already set up. But I like to check my code frequently, like throughout. Whoops, I didn't mean to run it again. Okay, clear. Double click. Okay, so now I have a case where if it's not exactly one of these numbers, I tell them, nope, can't do that. So what if it is one of these? So I'm going to create another if. If something, and then open, close, and if. So if shape dot equals, I'm comparing strings, And I said I was going to do the box first. So this is just one small example. You'll do another if inside, or an else if. So shape.equals box. So if I say if the shape is a box, so if it's one of these things, great. Now check to see if it's specifically a box. If it's a box, then I can say, all right, what is the height? What is the height? What is that asking for? What is the length, width, and height? So I'm just going to ask for those things. I'm not going to ask for it exactly the way this does, but I'm going to ask for length, width, and height. So I'll have a system.println. What is the, what did it say? Length, width, and height. Is the length, width, and height of the box. And then I'm just going to have the user press enter every time. So I'll just use the scanner 3 times to get this. So I'm just going to copy this, because this allows me to get input from the user. Copy this, paste it here. However, instead of input 1, I already used it up here, so I'm going to say input 2. I'm just changing that, and then it's not going to be shape anymore. The first time that I'm storing something, I want the length, so I'm going to change this to length, a string called length, and the user is going to put in some number. Here it says negative value, error, negative value, because there's a negative, so it maybe check for negatives as well. So this is what I'm going to do. So I'm getting a length, and then that's going to be a string, but I want it to be a number. I want it to be a double. Oh, I need to use, well, I guess not for the box, but normally I think you would use, I guess we could declare it up here. You'll probably have this for your sphere, and no, you definitely will. Double pi, and then we're going to initialize it as well, 3.14. I'm not going to use pi for the box, obviously, but you'll probably have to have that for your. You'll definitely have to have that for your sphere and your cylinder and your cone. So let's see here. So I'm accepting input from the user, and I'm storing it in length. But length is a string, so I want to convert that into double. So I'm going to do that. I just have to remember what to do. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to string length, because it's the length, but it's as a string. So and then I'm going to convert this to a double. So I'll say double, and then actually call it length. So this is the length that I can do math on. I can't do math on this because this is a string, but then I'm going to convert it to a double. So then this is what I'll be doing math with. So let me finish the rest of that. So we get double length gets double dot parse double, maybe parse double. Let me check the rest. And then the string that I want to change into a double is going to be string length. It's like the string version, length. And then hopefully that works. Oh, wait, what? Oh, I didn't close my parentheses. There we go. All right, these parentheses opened and then closed, and I never closed this one. So there we go. Let's compile now. Cool. So what I've done is I've checked so far to make sure that this is like it's one of these words, and then after that I'm checking, or I'm doing the box case. So here first I accept a length, and then I convert it to a double right away. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to accept a width, and then I'll convert it to a double. And then I'll accept a height, and I'll convert it to a double. So all of that first. So I'm going to type that up real quick. So I think what I have here, so I'm taking in something for length. Okay, and then I'm taking in something and putting, input 2, input 4. I'm changing these so that I can use it. And then, let's see, compile. Cool. So I took all these in and I converted them to doubles. Now, what I want to do is, I suppose, I want to check to see if they're negative. So I'm going to do that real quick. If, I'm just going to set up another if. And then what am I doing with this if? I'm saying if height, or sorry, let's start it with length, because length, then width, then height. So we'll say if length, and now I can use the math comparison stuff, because they're doubles now. So length, if length is less than 0, that means it's negative. Or width, and same thing. So width less than 0. Or height, H-E-I-G-H-T, less than 0. So if any of these things, what am I going to do? I'm going to say system.out.println error negative value. So, and then that's it. I mean, it'll stop out of that, and then it'll be done. So we have that. Else, so if that, and then this is what it'll print out. Else, we'll say we can continue on with our calculations. So that's just checking to make sure that, okay, yeah, they're not negative. Let's continue on. So if they're not negative, how do we calculate the volume? Well, let's compile this real quick. Cool. Let's run it. See if this comes out. Let's see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. Let's see. So run. What shape? So I know that if I type in anything else than those 5 words, it'll stop the program and it'll say I can't calculate that. So I'm just going to type in box, and then it says what is the length, width, and height of the box. So the length, I'll say 3, enter, and then it waits for the height. Okay, -2. So this should give me the error, and then the height would be, I don't know, 4. So then if I push enter here, it should say error negative value because of this. Let's run it again. Well, I'm not going to run it again because I don't have the rest of the code finished. So let's clear that, close that, and then look back at the code. Okay, so this works out. If any of these are negative, it stops and then says this. If any of these are not negative, so like if this is negative, or this is negative, or this is negative, this prints out to the screen. Else, we can calculate the volume. So I'm going to say double volume, and I'm calling it volume because that's what we're calculating. Maybe I'll do volume box, just to be specific. And then that gets, and I'm going to do my calculations here. If I did 4 divided by 3, those are both integers. And then the computer will just make the answer into an integer. So what I'm going to do is 4.0 divided by 3.0. These are both doubles now, so when I divide them, they'll also be doubles. Or I mean, the result will also be a double. So, wait a minute, why am I doing this? That was for sphere. I'm just kidding. So that's actually important. That's something that you need to have, because otherwise it'll not be accurate, because you'll cut off the decimal places and you won't have them anymore, or you'll get an error because you're mixing stuff. I think it just casts it to a double, or at least in some languages it just casts it to a double. But for right now, just use those doubles, and whenever you're dividing 4 divided by 3, and then it remains a double because that's what you want. Because volume box, that's going to be a double. But all we have to do is length, which is a double, times width, because this is just the volume of a box, times height, H-E-I-G-H-T. And then we'll print out system. I mean, I could have done this inside, but I'm just going to do it in a separate line. System.out.println. And I'll say the volume of the box is volume box. I think that's it. And then close that. Let's see if it compiles. So everything's good. So now, what should happen? This is all just for the volume of the box. After all of this, after this is done running, it'll exit this, and then I'll do another if statement that lines up with this one. I'll do another if statement saying if shape.equals, and then I'll pick another shape and then write code for that. So hopefully that makes sense, but let me just compile this, and well, I did that already. Let's run it. And I'm not going to plug in any negative values. So what shape would you like to calculate the volume for? Box. What is the length, width, and height of the box? 3, 3, 3. So that should be what, 27.0? Volume of the box is 27.0. Right, let's clear it and run it again. And I'll just type in decimals because that should work as well. So box, and then what is the length, width, and height? So 2.3, 3.2. And it's just multiplying all these things together, and 4. Enter. The volume of the box is that. So hopefully if you multiply those together you get that. Let's see. I'm doing it right now. It's not exact. Like what I get on my calculator is with 29.44. This has a rounding error. Maybe it's because I have that 4 there. Let's see what happens if I have if I do 4.0. Let's see. So I'll run it again with a 3.2, 2.3, and a 4.0. 2.3. Whoops. Box. What was it? Well, it doesn't really matter the order. 3.2, 2.3, and what did I say? 4.0. What if that's different? No, it's the same thing. I don't know what's going on there, but it's doing the multiplication and the division. So I'm just going to be satisfied with that, and then I'm going to continue on and explain some other stuff. So let's open up the code. So that's going to be, I'm going to be satisfied with volume of the box there. What I'm going to do next is another set of code for that looks kind of like this, all that stuff, except for, where does this end? There. So I should have kept going. Except for, I'll start it out with shape.equals and then sphere, maybe. So I'll just start that out. And it's end if. So this if is there, and it ends here. I still want to be inside this, because this if statement. So I still want to be inside this one, because if I'm outside of this, then I'm doing it if it's not a sphere or a box or cylinder or cone or pyramid. So here, just to double check, yes, end that. If, and then I'll say else if, because if I, well, let me open, close, and else if. Okay, so now I can run something else, or do something else, calculate something else. And this, like if this runs, then this won't run. If this does run, then it's going to check this. So that's what the else if does. And then I'll say something like shape.equals sphere. And then now I would start with another thing like this. What is, so it would say, what shape would you like to calculate the volume for? And then you type in sphere. And then what do you need for a sphere? Well, you need the radius. So then you would say, what is the radius of the sphere? I would type in a line similar to this. What is the radius of the sphere? And then accept the radius with different inputs, and then change it to a double, and then calculate the volume and spit it out. Just remember, when you do 4 divided by 3, you're using 4.0 divided by 3.0. That way it remains a double, and then all the rest of it remains a double instead of changing it to an integer. Because 4 divided by 3, if I do that on the calculator, 4 divided by 3, that's 4 divided by 3. That's 1.33333333, which is a double. If I did 4 divided by 3 in my code, it would just come out as 1, because 4 is an integer, 3 is an integer, so when you divide the two, it'll still be an integer. And it just truncates, it just gets rid of all the decimals. So hopefully this is helpful. This was a crazy long video. I'm going to split it up into parts, but hopefully that's good. Alright, see you later. So that's the, okay, and then afterwards you do an else if for a different thing. It's quite a bit of code.